Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show, Where Truth Matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. You can also find us on the radio. Yeah, we worked this deal out right here, 92.9, and that's FM, the biggest country station located in South Carolina. So we're so proud to be part of WZLA Radio. You can also find us still on all of our social media sites, and it's so much fun to bring all this information to you. Continue sending email, Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. I have with me a very special guest. His name is Peter Young. And he has quite a story. He's an author, he's a speaker, and just an all-around good guy. Thank you so much, Peter, for being on the show with me today.
Donna, thank you again for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh, always. Let's talk about your book and how folks can find it.
Sure. I have three. I've written a couple novels about faith in basketball, and then I released my memoir. It's called Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. And all of them can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And other online retailers.
Yeah. Oh, well, some good reading there as well. Let's talk a little bit about cults, because we got some feedback from when you were on the show last month, and so we've got quite a few questions, and one of those is, why can even educated, confident people be drawn into a cult?
I love it. I always get great questions. So whenever I go speak publicly, I give like a 20, 25-minute talk, and then we do a Q&A, question and answer. And the Q&A is just fantastic because they always come up with some really good questions. And that is almost always one of them. They look at me and they think, well, the guy's not that stupid looking, right? Like, he looks fairly normal. How did this happen? So my answer to that is there's a million different ways or more that someone could get sucked into a cult. For me, it's quite simple. I was married to a woman that was born into it. So she really knew no other life. This Uncle Robert, our cult leader, kind of glommed onto her parents before she was even born. So her whole life, he's the expert on literally every subject. So when I'm Marianne, I'm head over heels in love with this woman. She adores this really weird guy, Uncle Robert. So I am the proverbial frog in the pot of boiling water. I go along to get along. Because early on, if you read my book, you'll realize that, early on, I thought the guy was kind of nuts. And I didn't want anything to do with him. But then slowly over, probably Donna, it took 15, 16 years for me to really get beat down, worn out, kind of like Chinese torture test or something. Just slowly, finally, well, maybe I've been wrong all of these years. And I finally just caved. And so that's how it happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. And even that she would go outside of that cult to find you is pretty amazing within itself. How did you guys meet?
So we met at a singles Bible study, right? Isn't that why you go to a singles Bible study? Not to hear the pastor's, wonderful teaching. I can hear that Sunday morning, but the singles Bible study, I think it was like the third time that the group had met. And I had seen her on the campus at Idaho State University. So we're both living in Pocatello, Idaho. I was a sports broadcaster working for the local ABC affiliate. And she had just gotten her master's degrees. And she's, 6'1", beautiful, tall, blonde hair, long, you couldn't miss her. And so I'd seen her around town, never met her. And then she showed up at the singles Bible study, and we started dating shortly after that. And for me, it was kind of, I don't want to say love at first sight, but I fell in love very quickly.
Now, this is a Donna question. So what were the chances, or what could you have done to bring her around the other way and out of the cult?
Boy, another great question. So that kind of ties into the name of the book, Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. Okay, and if I can flesh this out, Don, I'll try not to go too long. Can God still speak to us in dreams? And my answer to that would be, well, why not? He's God, right? He can do whatever he wants. I also have a friend of mine that says, if you think God has been speaking to you and what you're hearing is in any way, I'm talking like 1% different than what the Bible says, that's not God speaking to you. That's something else. Okay, so I do think that God could speak to us in dreams. Paige had this fascinating dream about 2 months before she met me. She writes about it, sends this letter off to her dear beloved Uncle Robert, and then he writes this crazy 23-page letter back to her, which I got to read. And in it, she says she's in a dream. There's a tiger that wants to find her and kill her. She's in a house with her boyfriend at the time, and if the tiger finds her, it's going to kill her. So she doesn't want to kill the tiger. She just wants to kind of know where it is, keep an eye on it, but she doesn't want to kill it because the tiger to her represents honor and dignity and strength and all these things that really she sees in Uncle Robert. And then the door of the house opens and a tall man walks in, but she can't see the face of the tall man. And the tall man is there to get rid of the tiger. So I believe the dream was clearly there to warn her that this Uncle Robert character is not who she thinks he is, and he is the tiger, and the tiger's gotten her in trouble before in her life, and she wants to protect the tiger, and the tall man was there to get rid of it, get rid of the tiger, and it was a warning to her. And she spent much of our marriage trying to protect the tiger from me, and I didn't realize this till like 20 years after the fact. So I think there's a very good chance that that's exactly why I was introduced to her. That's why the Lord had us meet. She was given a warning, and she ignored it tragically. And so our marriage ended, and our kids, we were all brainwashed, and the fallout continues to this day.
And there are many other ways that people are brainwashed. I mean, it can be anything, not just a religious cult. What are some of the other ways people really have to be careful?
I just read recently a book called Cultish, which is a good book. I don't agree completely with the author. She's very liberal, very woke, young lady, maybe has never experienced something like this. But her foundational argument is that cults and undue mind control really begin and end with words. And she's got a point. I don't know if I would go that far with it. But I do believe that there is a difference. This is how I'm going to answer your question. I do believe that there is a difference between a cult and really bad behavior or bad culture, right? So you could have an organization, a church, whatever it may be, a small group that has really sick, dysfunctional culture. Does that make it a cult? Maybe, maybe not. I do believe there is a very clear distinction between those two things. So you can have bad culture. That could be something you want to get in and out of. You got to be very wary of. But a cult really is undue, manipulative mind control that's very controlling and wicked in a way that bad culture at an office is not.
Mm-hmm. Wow, some interesting things. Okay, another question is, what are some of the control tactics that are used by cult leaders?
Okay, so for me and my experience, there's several. 3 stand out the most: isolation, secrecy, and paranoia. So the isolation, we would go to church after church, and then, my wife would get on the phone, call Uncle Robert on the cell phone, and the pastor doesn't know what he's talking about. So we would leave, and then we'd leave another church and another church till we finally just stopped fellowshipping with other believers. Kind of like the analogy I gave last time. If you cut your thumb off, the thumb dies, the body doesn't die. We were cut off. Okay, so we were isolated. We only heard one voice. That's a huge red flag. Okay, secrecy. I heard a number of times about not throwing my pearls before the swine, right? Because no one would understand Uncle Robert. And if you tried to explain it, they wouldn't get it, and they'd be a threat, right? So we had to keep everything secret. We hid him. So isolation, secrecy, and then paranoia. He taught that the Jews were out to control the world, and everything was a conspiracy. I mean, literally, there was a conspiracy under every rock. And so we had to shred our trash. We couldn't say certain words on the cell phone. So that went hand in glove with the secrecy. So all 3 of those things kept us very isolated, and we were special because we had access to him, and only he, our cult leader, knew the truth. And so we were just cut off from everybody else. And so when you're alone, when you're by yourself, that's when you're most vulnerable. And that's how we were controlled. That's how I was controlled.
Oh my goodness, Peter Young is with me right now. Peter, I have another question for you, and this pertains to, because a lot of people are getting psyched in with news media. I'm media too, so I'm not slamming all media, but I beg people to do their own research. Don't just listen to me and what I have to say, but do your own research, but find viable ways to do that. Do you feel like as a whole, and I'm talking about the right and the left on site, did they use some sort of mind control in the media to get you to see their way?
Yeah, that is another really good question that kind of gets right to it, doesn't it? You've got that nerve and you're pressing your finger on it, Donna. Do I consider that mind control? No. And this may be kind of semantics, but I think there's a difference between true mind control, which is of an evil nature, and then let's say maybe, kind of propaganda or influence or, some kind of a coercion. There's nothing wrong with you or me or anyone trying to convince other people of their point of view. But when you go beyond that to try and literally control not only what the person thinks, but then where they're going to get all their information from, you control all of that, how they are able to process it, and you really kind of weaken that person so that they are completely dependent upon this one person and the information they're giving. That to me is very different than having a website, whatever part of the ideological spectrum you fall on, and trying to convince people of your point of view. I would also add this: if wherever that person is on the ideological spectrum and they're trying to, convince you of their point of view, if they hate questions and they don't want to be questions, that's a huge red flag, because the truth doesn't mind being questioned. So I can come across with, my ideas, my beliefs, my theology, and I can be very strong. I can be very persuasive, and I'll also entertain questions. And you could question me all day long, right? If someone doesn't want questions, that is a big red flag.
I totally agree. I have a lot of political figures on my show, and a lot of them are a little shy to come on. So now I'm a conservative. But then they find out I give everybody a chance. Yep. I mean, everyone gets the chance. But the one key, when I ask a question about something, and we're not going to get into politics, I'm just going to use this for an example. When I get into something to do with, I don't know, children being manipulated, that kind of a thing, but maybe they're trying to put forth something in the form of, in the government to, I don't know, something that seems kind of wishy-washy to me. It's just kind of iffy to me, and it just feels wrong. And when I ask the question, but what about this? Is this something we really need to do? And when the answer is, well, Donna, it's all about the children, I'm just telling you, my antennas go up. Yeah. Okay, and I'll let them continue. Yeah. And I don't butt in on them. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I'll let them go ahead and talk. So I figure they're going to hang their own stuff. I won't have to do it. But there are just certain things that the way people answer my questions, it just, I don't know, my antennas go.
Yeah. Well, and here's another big red flag. And I guess this is gaslighting, and I'd never even heard the term gaslighting until maybe just a few years ago, but I do believe it's a very real thing. I was gaslit to the nth degree. There's no question. And oftentimes what a cult leader will do, certainly that happened in my case, is you ask a good question, and it's a legitimate question. And instead of getting an answer to the question, the questioner is attacked. Peter, why don't you get it? Why don't you understand me? I have explained this to you for years. Why are you so stupid? You're really going to have me explain this one more time to you? When are you going to get it? And of course, he's never given me the answer, right? So if somebody is very questioning of you, why would you ask me that question? Well, what's wrong with that question? Just answer it. You shouldn't have to be defensive. If you believe what you believe, great. Put it out there. And you know what? If you're wrong, be willing and humble to accept that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's all part of it too. I didn't tell you, but we have a lot of new sponsors coming in. So we're going to be taking 2 commercial breaks this time. So in just about another couple of minutes, but I have a question for you. Now you talked about the stages of manipulation, that kind of thing. So we have another question that was asked: how guilt, fear, and shame are used to maintain loyalty with a cult.
Yep. Loyalty and control. So guilt, fear, and shame really are just like the isolation, paranoia, and secrecy. And our little cult leader, Uncle Robert, was brilliant at it. He's very strong working knowledge of psychology. He's very narcissistic. So he used all of those mostly to control the men in our cult. And so he would gather information about you, and then he would be able to use that against you to control you. For instance, like at one of our little conferences, we would meet once or twice a year. We call it a conference. I was just sitting around listening to him talk for hours. Mm-hmm. One of those, we all shared our testimony, and he never shared his testimony about how we became a Christian, how we came into the kingdom. And it was almost as if, well, he can't share his testimony because when God was creating the world, Uncle Robert was there holding, the measuring tape, right? Like he was that important. But he would use what you shared in, let's say, your testimony. Then he would be able to use that. He'd find the weak link, just like water, find that weak spot, and he'd go right to that over and over and over again to beat me down and to control me. Another example, I would ask him a question. And if I didn't preface it in a phone call or an email with what I understood on the topic, he wouldn't answer it. He always wanted to know what I understood. And the only reason he wanted to know what I understood on the topic was then his answer would, of course, attack me. He wouldn't answer the question and be, "That's dumb, Peter. Why do you think that?" Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the time.
But when someone calls you dumb, that's another my antenna goes up. And again, like you just said, and your book is just also clear about this, when they don't answer the question,
right?
And not only politicians, a lot of people do that, Right. So when they don't answer the question and they just go all the way around and turn it to you, they don't answer it as if you're the dumb one. You're not. That's so true.
Let me ask you this, Donna, and your audience. Think about this. Yeah. You're listening to someone here. I'm getting interviewed, or a teacher in front of the room, or a politician at this, at the lectern or at the podium, or a pastor, and they're asked a tough question, and they just simply say, "I don't know. That's a good question." Have you ever felt less of that person, or do you always feel like, yeah, well, good for him or her to admit he doesn't know it, right?
Yeah.
Cult leaders can't do that.
Shift it to as if you're just asking a stupid question. That's another antenna goes up.
Right.
Just answer it, even by saying, "I don't know."
Yep, exactly. And cult leaders can't do that.
That's right. They never have the answer. Never.
They will never admit they don't have the answer. Yeah.
That's absolutely true. I wanted to go into a commercial break, and I hate to, no, that was wrong. I don't want to go into a commercial break. We have a great discussion going on here. But I wanted to thank all of our sponsors. We have some new ones. My Patriot Supply. If you'll go to donnasedge.com, you'll see a link, a little icon with My Patriot Supply. Click on that. They are running some absolute great prices for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So go ahead and check that out. Eggs Up Grill, you got to go check them out. They are going to have another new 100 locations in the United States coming up pretty soon. So they're working on that. They're expanding like crazy. They serve breakfast and lunch. And if you like breakfast for lunch, you'll be able to get that as well. So go ahead and check them out. That's Eggs Up Grill. And then Honey Baked Ham. Go ahead and get those orders in right now. Okay, because you don't want to run out of hams, do you? So go ahead and get that order in. Go to your favorite location as well. Let's go into a commercial break. We shall return in just a few minutes. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Age Television Talk Show for Truth Matters. Got Peter Young with me right now. Peter, let's talk about your background. Okay, so you are a host. I mean, you're in radio and all the fun stuff. But if you go into it, how do you always want to come back?
So you asked for my background. So this is the Reader's Digest version. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, Christian home, even though I got wrapped up in a cult. A very wonderful, normal upbringing, 4 older brothers, obsessed with basketball. And so I was going to be the next Larry Bird. I was going to be a star in college and play for the Celtics. Well, that didn't happen. So then when I got done playing, I coached basketball. So I spent 2 years coaching, moved out west, and I was going to be the next John Wooden or Mike Krzyzewski, and I was going to be this great basketball coach. Well, that didn't happen. So then I got into sports broadcasting, and I had a nice career. I was on TV, did some radio and internet as well, but I traveled the world as a sports broadcaster, and I was going to be the next Bob Costas. And that didn't happen. And so I think all of those things were kind of the Lord's way of humbling me and sending me curveballs in my life. And I was not very good at hitting curveballs. And so I can look back at all of that and say, that was clearly the Lord's hand. I needed to be humbled. I was arrogant. But I enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed playing basketball. I enjoyed coaching. I enjoyed sports broadcasting. Now that I'm a writer, I'm not trying to be the next Hemingway or Steinbeck. I'm just trying to do the best job I can be and be the best Peter Young, because the Lord created you and me. We're all unique. And if he wanted another Larry Bird, he would have created 2 of them. He didn't want 2. He wanted me. He has a plan for me and my life. And no longer do I put my identity in, I'm a basketball player, or I'm a coach, or a broadcaster, or a writer. I'm a son of God. I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. What I do is I write. That's not my identity. That's something I do and love.
Well, we all appreciate that. Absolutely. So glad you came into our lives. I'm really glad. But here's another question for you. And this is a very, very simple question from one of our listeners. And what is the fine line between belief and brainwashing?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. And here's my distinction. Here's how I would answer it. Let's take the cult leader, Uncle Robert in this case. And I would clearly say that I was brainwashed for about 2.5 years. And his mind control was very manipulative and destructive. So you could go to Galatians chapter 3, where it talks about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Okay, then before that is kind of the evidence of the flesh. It's anger, hatred, divisions, and factions, etc. Much of Uncle Robert's teaching and or brainwashing was the fruit of that really is the anger, the factions, the divisions versus the fruit of the Spirit. Now let's go to somebody else who you could make the argument is brainwashing, a high school basketball coach or football coach. And if he's good at what he does, those kids will, they'll run through the brick wall for that coach, right? Because they love the guy. They want to win for him. And that coach is in their faces. He's screaming, he's yelling, but he wants the best for that kid. Mm-hmm. And so if that kid really is listening, he is going to start exhibiting the fruits of the Spirit. I'm not trying to spiritualize football or anything, but a leader can then draw out the wonderful things for that young football player or for that young basketball player. So to me, to answer that question, you look at the result, you look at the fruit, right? I'm not going to say a football coach is going to brainwash a kid, but he's got a lot of power over that kid to help him and how he thinks. And a cult leader, same way, but it's the exact opposite. It is to a destructive end.
Another thing about a cult leader too, I knew one, I've had one for a boss once. And so what he would do is he was talking with me, trying to convince me of weird stuff. In other words, there was a lot of, had to go to seminars and in this position, I held accounts for the government and for corporations. And so, and I loved spending my time out in the field. I loved my customers, and I was always looking out for and that's how I got referrals. And I'll just say this, you can advertise all you want to, but if you don't take care of your customers, you're just not going to have a business. That's just the way it is. So I treated it like as if it were my business. So he wanted me to go to a seminar, and it was totally against my biblical beliefs. And I said, I don't hate anybody, but I don't know the point of my going to the seminar. Well, he was trying to convince me, and as he was talking, he was continually looking at me, shaking his head to get me to agree. And I picked up on that, and I said, you're trying to get me to agree with your beliefs by shaking your head like that.
Right.
And we wound up being friends after that. But he wasn't really a cult leader, but he was just someone who tried to convince me of things I didn't believe in. Right. Totally against Bible principles.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating topic because I never thought I would be in a cult. I always say, and it's on the back cover of my book, you never know you are in a cult. You only know you were in one. And no one ever willingly or knowingly joins a cult. They think they're joining something else. It is a fascinating topic. I've read a lot of books on it. And there's agreement on a lot of things, like let's say the signs of a cult leader, undue mind control, etc. But there's also some gray areas where it's like, well, wait a minute, is this a cult or is this bad culture? I think honest people can disagree on those points. But for me, I do believe, and again, I've already made this comment before, there was another book I read called Uncultured, really quickly. This woman, the author, grew up in a horrible cult, sexually abused, etc. And it's a cult. There's no question it's a cult. And then when she got out, she recovered, she joined the army. And then the first week in boot camp, she's got a backpack on, it's heavy, it's hot, sweating. These people are screaming at her. And she thinks to herself, did I just join another cult? And so, of course, at the end of the book, it's like, well, no, the Army's not a cult, but there are some really bad pockets of bad culture in it. So I guess, Donna, really, the question then is, if you're looking at it as a pendulum, right? Cult on one side, bad culture on the other side, where does it swing back and forth? And I'll be honest, I don't have the answer to that question. I can just tell you what happened in my life.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. That brought me to another question. Let me find it really quick. And I think it's on this page. Okay. So a lady sends a question for you. She said, why do I seem to attract cult leaders or narcissistic people? She said, almost in every phase of her life, there is someone like that. Is she doing something to attract those people? Or is there some kind of a weakness they seek out in her?
Well, it could be a little bit of both. Obviously, I don't know this person. I don't know her situation, why she keeps always ending up in those kind of situations. But perhaps it is something she is doing, which of course she probably doesn't want to hear that. But, cult leaders are, in a sense, very brilliant. It's a wicked brilliance, in that they kind of know their targets. They know who they want to go after. It is people that will be, let's say, emotionally and mentally vulnerable, or who are somewhat isolated. So like, again, in my case, we became isolated, but my vulnerability was I love my wife. And so I wanted to maintain my marriage. And so he could easily hold it over me. And So that made me very vulnerable. Cult leaders are not going to, let's say, prey on very strong people who have a wonderful support network. If they do, they're not going to get very far.
Right.
So I would say, wrapped in my answer there, hopefully is a good answer for this person, and that, if you have a very strong, healthy group of friends and relatives, in other words, you are tightly connected to the body of Christ, and you have confidence in your faith. Remember, the Bible says there's no fear in love, right? I mean, think about it. There's no fear in love. If you know that the Lord loves you, there's no fear. So if you're not fearful and you have a strong support network within the body of Christ, you have nothing to fear about a co-leader.
How much of this is actually derived just from someone wanting to be a part of something?
Well, there's a lot of that, right? And that was discussed in that book, Cultish, that I read, that we all like to feel like we belong, right? Like the World Series just ended and it was fantastic to watch it. But you look at people that are wearing Blue Jays or Dodgers paraphernalia, and I mean, they know all the names, they've got the jerseys on. It's like they're fanatics, right? Fan is short for fanatic. Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with sports teams, but that's to the point of we all want to feel like we belong. And there can be danger in that. I don't think it's inherent, but it can be if we allow it to be. I will share from my personal life, I'm not a member of my church. I adore the people at my church. I love the Christian fellowship. I really enjoy what the pastor has to say. I don't agree with everything on a doctrinal basis, and I think that's fine. Iron sharpens iron. But I don't see anywhere in the Bible where it says that I should become a member of a church. If someone can point that out to me, I'll ask to be a member tomorrow or later today, right? And I only say that not to puff myself up, but I think there can be a danger in all of these things to where, well, I'm a member of this church or I'm a fan of this group, etc. You have to have the Holy Spirit living within you and ask for his wisdom. James chapter 1, I'm paraphrasing. Hey, if you lack wisdom, ask and I'll give it to you, but you got to make sure you don't doubt. I've done that in my life.
I have too. We went to, when we were living in Alabama, we went to a cowboy church. And I have to tell you, it's one of the things I really liked about the cowboy church. They didn't have members. You just went to the church. Yeah. That's all you did. I just thought that was.
Yeah, and I don't go around at our church telling people that. I'm quiet about it. I'm not trying to cause a ruckus or anything. For me, I just don't see it. Again, if one of your listeners has a verse, send it to me. And I will look at it, I'll pray about it. And if I'm wrong, I'm calling my pastor 5 minutes later. I want to join. I just don't see it.
I just think we're supposed to be followers of Jesus.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly how I love church too. I love going, and to a good Bible believing church as well. There's another one I wanted to get with you. Okay, right here. So a lady, her daughter is 15 years old, and she feels like she's following some kind of a cult. But she will ask her daughter about this, or who are your friends, that kind of thing. And she's real hush mouthed about it. She says right here. And what does she need to do to bring that out? And she feels like she needs to save her daughter from whoever her friends are.
Sure. Well, I would say that needs to be dealt with now, not tomorrow, not tonight, now. If that were my daughter, I would take her phone, I would look at it, and I'd make sure that I had access to it, and I would want to know who all the friends are, and I would, I'd confront the child, and I would, lovingly, patiently, and firmly not be done with this conversation until you get the answers that you want to. Because again, the daughter or the son, whoever it is, has no idea if they truly are being brainwashed or entering a cult. They don't know it. Only you, as the adult or the person watching this, knows it. So you have to intervene. And again, intervene now before you have to intervene to get your child out of a cult. The journey in and out of a cult is incredibly painful. Trust me, you don't want to go through it. So you have to be very firm and loving. Again, think about it as a parent. Is it loving to, not want to hurt your child's feelings, and yet they go into a cult? Of course not. You're the parent. Your friend second, your parent first. If I were that parent, I mean, the sun should not go down until you have a definitive answer on that. And if the answer is something that's pretty scary, don't let that child out of your sight. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's very important. Your child's life is on the line here.
Let me
if indeed it is, and I don't know, right, in this case, but if indeed it is a danger.
Just be the parent, be the bad guy sometimes.
Yep.
Is all I know to say about that as well. So this is a Donna question. Okay, so social media, we've seen a lot of changes, throughout social media. So are we seeing a new type of a cult leader trying to find their followers through social media?
Wow. That's the first time I've been asked that question. And here's my answer. It might not be very satisfactory to you, but I've had people ask me about, well, is this faith, is that faith a cult? And I'll say as a Christian, well, no, I think that faith is a false religion. I think that faith is a false religion. I don't really think it's a cult. And here's the distinction. To me, a cult has, generally speaking, one leader. And there's a little bit more proximity to the leader, so the leader can have control. The leader would never share control. So with the false religion, you might have many prophets or many teachers or leaders. To me, that's not a cult, because the cult leader would never share or diffuse his or her power or authority. Okay, so that to me is like kind of the difference between a cult and a false religion. So now you take someone that is trying to gain a very devoted following via social media. Well, he or she's probably never met 99% of the people that are following him. Could you really have that kind of ability to have manipulative, coercive, undue mind control over that person? Maybe. I kind of doubt it. Stephen Hassan, who is a very well-respected cult expert, written a number of books. His latest book was called The Cult of Trump. I completely disagree with the guy. I think he's still a brilliant cult expert. But, his book, it's very anti-Christian. I mean, you read the book and you feel like the guy hates Christians. I don't think he does, but he comes across that way. But getting back to Trump, listen, I voted for Trump. He's got his flaws and his foibles. I don't think he's a cult leader. I think it's kind of laughable, because I just think to have that large an audience and to think that person from that like 30,000 foot elevation distance, right? You never meet the person. You're only listening to him online. Is it a cult leader? I have a hard time seeing that. And again, I don't think Trump is a cult leader, but someone that just has that kind of access to you through social media, I don't
think he is either. And I've heard so many people have sent me questions throughout since he was president the first time is, well, I think he is the Antichrist. And my response to that is always no way, because the Antichrist is supposed to have everybody liking him. And there are too many people shooting darts and arrows at him. So I'm not buying that at all. He's not.
No, I do not believe he's the Antichrist at all. And quite honestly, the Bible, whenever it talks about it, I believe every time it's mentioned, it is plural, not singular, Antichrist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are many running around. Absolutely. Another question for you is, what is the long-term trauma of leaving a cult?
Ooh. Well,
these off so I don't ask you next time you come on.
Yeah, I would say trauma is not the word I would use. Yes, there is trauma in leaving. There's far worse trauma in staying. And so for me, there was victory in leaving the cult.
More like grief instead of trauma.
Grief, is that what you said?
Freedom,
yes. Oh, there's no question there is freedom. Yeah. So thank you. That's kind of where I was headed with this. Is there trauma? Well, sure there is. But if you've truly left and you're on the road to recovery, the freedom, like the ability to take a deep breath like I just did, as I think about it, overwhelms the trauma. And, it's kind of like, hey, you're drowning. And then when you get out, you're still wet. Well, what are you going to do? Go back in the water? I mean, you're going to have some residual issues to deal with. But for me, again, I guess, and maybe I'm being a little too nitpicky with the word, I don't have any trauma. Do I have PTSD? Well, I don't think so. I've been through something horrific. I've recovered, and the Lord has done it. And I am 1,000,000 times stronger now. So for me in my life, there's no trauma at this point.
Absolutely. We got to go into another commercial break. I can't believe it. Time is just flying by. So let's go into a break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes with Peter. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Good afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television Talk Show, where Truth Matters. Been doing this for 20 years, and always glad to be part of your world. Absolutely. Started out a long time ago, seen a lot of changes. Social media has been one of those changes, and I'm really thankful for that as well. Peter Young is with me. Peter, tell folks how they can find your books again.
Sure. So you can find all of my books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also go to my website. It's authorpeteryoung.com. There are, of course, links to Amazon. So I've got my memoir, Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. And then my two novels are The Blue Team and Wardrobe of the Wolf, the third book in the Thomas Connor series. So it's a series. East of Ashton will be released in 2026. So you can get all of those books on my website or directly at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And you can also reach out to me personally if you want to ask me questions, you want to get on my newsletter list, or would like to come have me speak to one of your groups. I very much enjoy coming on shows like this or speaking in person about my story and what happened. I love the Bible stories, and one of my favorite is Luke chapter 8. And that's the one where the man has got a legion of demons, right? And Christ heals the man. And then the crowd is afraid. And so they tell Jesus to leave. It's amazing to me, right? They ask him to leave. And then the man begs him, the man that had the demons in him. Remember, the demons get sent to the pigs go drown themselves in the lake. And the man begs Jesus. That's the word that used in the NIV. He begs him. And Christ says, no. He says, go home and tell everyone in your home what the Lord has done for you. Okay, what the Lord has done for you, that's your testimony. So I always wonder, Donna, because then at the end of the chapter is right there. What did the town folks say to him? How did they receive him? They just told Christ to leave. Now this man that was out of his mind, living in a cave, has been healed, and he goes back and tells everybody in town what the Lord has done for him. Were they kind to him? Were they welcoming? Did they receive him? Did they tell him to leave? Were they scared? Who knows? The Bible's silent. I can tell you this. I go on shows like yours, and I share my story because the Lord rescued me, and it's my testimony. It's my story. And I can tell you that people have been so kind and so welcoming and receptive to my story. And I there's part of me just hopes that they were receptive to that man as well in Luke chapter 8.
Okay, this is another Donna question. This may be a silly one to you right here. But
Okay.
Would you consider, Adam and Eve, would you consider Eve being the original cult leader or the serpent?
I would believe neither. And it's funny you ask that because our co-leader, Uncle Robert, would go on and on and on and on about Adam and Eve. I remember this one conference we had, and he, to me, twisted the Bible to make it to where Adam sinned. The Bible's very clear that Eve was deceived. I mean, they both sinned, but Eve was deceived and then deceived Adam. And he would go on and on and on. And his conclusion was that Adam did not protect Eve from himself. His interpretation of it was that nothing to do with an apple or a tree. It was they had sex. And so, the apple was sex. And so Adam did not protect Eve from himself. And the only reason he did this, and he may have believed it, but the reason he did it was to control and then shame, like one of your listeners asked, and shame me and my former father-in-law and the other men in our little cult, because of course he was perfect and he had never done anything sexual outside of marriage, and of course we're all just trash and dirt, and he did it to shame us. So do I think, and he was a cult leader and all that? No. Obviously the serpent is representative of the devil and is the devil, and sin entered the world in that story. So I don't think anyone's a cult leader in Genesis.
Not yet. They came along a little bit later than that. Yeah, well, I can ask some weird questions sometimes. Right here. And this is about recovery. And so what kind of counseling and community support is out there for people who've been in former cults?
Well, again, I'll tell you what I experienced. It took me about a year I'm still recovering in some sense, I guess, but it took me about a year to really undo all of the brainwashing. And I'd only been brainwashed again for just under 3 years, 2.5 years. And of course, going into it, I thought, well, I don't need a counselor. I was very anti-counselor. And my brothers were like, you need a counselor. So I got one, and she was great. And we're still friends to this day, but I only, met with her once a week for about a year. For me, what was most important was I'm very fortunate. Full of brothers, my parents are still alive, and church leaders and people that go to church, fellow believers nearby. And I had an incredible support system wrap their arms around me. Several people, I would call one brother in North Carolina like at 7 a.m. because I couldn't handle it. I was every morning was terror. It was terror for me. And then I would hang out with him, and I'd call my brother in California at like 8 a.m. And for like an hour, I'd be on the phone with both of them every morning just to get me through the day. And that was like 6 months. And then I would talk to other people. I would get these really crazy, nasty, attacking emails from Paige, my former wife, or Uncle Robert. You're the devil, and it would trigger me. And I would send it to 4 or 5 people and have them read it first. And I'd say, can I read this email? And I'd often get back, you might want to wait before you read that email. So that's the kind of support I got. So I'm not anti-counselor. I think biblical counseling is very important. But to me, you don't need a counselor. So I'm not trying to, again, bash counseling, but to me, you don't need counseling if you have and have surrounded yourself with very strong, biblically minded friends and family. That's what you need first and foremost. And so, in answer to your question, you should have that in your life. Everybody should.
Absolutely. I wanted to mention this. So when I was a teenager, growing up, my family was not at home like they were in church. So my antennas really go up because of the way I was raised. And so, and you have to really be careful how you handle yourself. Now, my grandparents were like my mainstay. I don't know what I would have done without them. I have a cousin who got into drugs and alcohol. My grandmother would just tore her up. She would cry about it. And then my grandmother would say things to me like that. Don't ever get into drugs and alcohol. So I'm pretty sure the way I carried myself, there was a guy in school who sold drugs. And so he walked up to me one day and he figured it out. I was having problems at home as a teenager. And so he was offering me, not that I think he was a cult leader or anything like that. I think he just saw how I carried myself maybe. And so he walks up to me and he said, I have a way you can forget all of that. And I came this close to taking the drugs. I came like that close. And I've thought a million times how my life could have been had I taken that. But I'll have to tell you one thing that stopped me. I could see my grandmother through him just as clear as day. And I thought about how that would just worry her. Right. I didn't want to worry her.
Right.
We have to be careful how we carry ourselves.
Absolutely. And hopefully what people see in us is the Holy Spirit living in us, and they can see Christ in us. That's my hope, that people will see that in my life. And there's probably a very good chance that that's what that pusher saw in your life. He saw someone that is not to be trifled with. And, onward Christian soldiers, right? Wear the breastplate of truth or righteousness, the whole armor of God. if we are going to hear good and faithful servant one day, hopefully people here on earth will see that in us every day. That's my hope.
You have another question here, and we talked about this last time you were on the show, but how close would a narcissist be to being a cult leader?
Wow. That is a good question. And off the top of my head, I don't have a good answer. Again, I would say at times I feel like that the word or the term cult leader or cult is used a bit too much. Is narcissist used too much? I don't think so. Donna there, but for the grace of God go I. We probably all have the ability to be narcissistic at times. Sin is not unique to one person or a narcissist. We are all saved sinners. And so I believe the narcissistic tendencies in some people, clearly have not been abated, but not been tamped down by a faith in Christ to where we can be renewed. And so it's kind of just flourished and grown. And so there's probably a lot of, very narcissistic people, wandering around our country. But then to say that those people are a cult leader, again, for me, maybe I'm just a little too sensitive to this because I've been through it. But to me, the threshold for a cult leader versus just someone who's a narcissist is very high. Because again, I've been in it. It's really, really bad. And your buddy, somebody could be a little narcissistic. Doesn't make him a cult leader.
Well, I don't think so. I actually have a friend who I call her a good narcissist. And the reason I say that is I think it's the way she was raised. Her mother passed away of cancer. They had quickly married someone else. The new wife who came in gave her all kinds of fear. I mean, and I don't necessarily think she's a narcissist. It's just that she tries to do things to get attention. I mean, just to get attention, because I think she didn't get the attention after her mother died. Dad even ignored her. I mean, it was just like he wanted his whole new life and just forget about her, period. It's just a terrible way to raise kids.
Right. And, again, I'm thinking about this as you tell me this story. And to me, it's more than just semantics, right? Like, that's a good question. It's more than just, trying to parse individual words in the English language. There is a distinction in all of this. And so as I never thought I'd become a cult expert. I don't really consider myself a cult expert. I've studied a lot and I've been in one. And so I do think it is an important topic. I wish it wasn't. I wish I didn't have this experience. I wish we didn't have to talk about these things, but we do. And so I guess for me, I kind of, I'm still kind of chewing on this question, and no one has ever asked me that. So I'm sure once this interview is over, maybe I got to come back on because I'm really wrestling with that right now.
Well, I don't know. It was the environment I was raised in, and it pricks questions to me. And the more you talk, and the more I studied, and the more I do research on it, I just feel like I'm a survivor myself.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we all are survivors, right? As believers in Christ, it's a tough world, and that's, again, there's victory in Christ. So that was the point I wanted to make. The Bible talks about having victory in Christ, and under a cult leader, you never had that. There was never a victory ever. You were always weak, and only He could save you, and you had to stay, kind of attached to Him and His strength. You could never experience victory. That's not the Christian life.
I always felt there was a protector over me, and I always felt it was Jesus protecting me even before I got saved. I don't know. There was some kind of something protecting me. Do you hear that from people?
Well, here's how I would answer that is I believe the Bible's very clear, and at times this is very hard for us in our human understanding to accept it. The Bible talks about very clearly about predestination, election, and being chosen, right? And without getting too deep into doctrine. The New Testament is very clear on that. So, Donna, the Lord saved you and chose you at the foundation of the world. He knew that you were going to be a child of God, just like He knew I was. And so, your whole life, He already knew you. He was already looking out for you because you were His. Listen, if we are Christians, we're followers of Christ, and we believe that God is sovereign, do we really think that we have the ability to change his plans? I don't think so.
I don't either. I think that's the plan. Now, I think we can alter it by making crazy decisions.
Yep. I don't think we catch God off guard, though. I don't think we give him any surprises. I think he kind of knows what he's doing.
He probably looks at me sometimes and goes, I don't know about you, girl.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so another question. This pertains to TikTok. She said that her kids are really into TikTok. She tries to, I think I could take the phone away from them. But anyway, she tries to take the phone away from them to keep them away from TikTok. Just take it away from them. So what is your answer?
Yeah. Well, take your right hand, and just go grab the phone. So with my kids, my youngest children, most of them were the last. Now they go to a small Christian school. They were pretty much the last kid in their grade to get a phone. So with like my son, he was a junior in high school, and he was just, oh my gosh, come on, Dad. And he just wasn't ready. And 99 out of 100 kids are not ready for phones. I wouldn't have been ready. I'm so glad I didn't grow up with a cell phone.
Yeah, me too.
To me, you miss out on so much. And so, it's just, you got to be the parent. I mean, if you need to take the phone, take the phone. And if there's a showdown, there's a showdown. Let me ask you this, or to this parent, would you rather have a showdown with your child in the home, or would you rather your child have a showdown with a guy in a blue uniform and handcuffs and a gun, right? There's going to be two, right? You got two options here, and you might as well have the showdown that you're in control of before it becomes a bigger problem.
Perfect answer right there. 3 minutes left in this segment.
Okay.
I'm giving it all to you. What would you like to say to the folks before we go?
Well, I would say there's three lessons that are contained in my memoir, in my journey in and out of the cult. Number one is that a strong marriage has to have Christ in the center. My marriage fell apart because we had Uncle Robert in the center. So there's no parent, there's no child, there's no pastor, there's no guru. They can all help from the outside and should to support and strengthen the marriage. But in the center is Christ. Number two, and that is that you have to maintain strong Christian fellowship. When you are alone, when you have separated yourself from the body of Christ, you become vulnerable. Christian fellowship is really important. And then number three, cult leaders like to act as gatekeepers to God. Salvation comes first and then sanctification, right? So you are saved and then you are sanctified. You're born and then you learn to walk. You don't learn to walk before you're born in the womb. You're born and then you learn to walk and eat and etc. Sanctification comes after salvation in the Christian life. And anyone that tries to switch the order is acting as a gatekeeper to God, and that is wicked. So those are the three most important points I try and share in my book. Okay,
we still have a little bit of time left, just a little bit over a minute and a half. Okay, what are the 3 points, 3 signals, not points, but signals that would cause you to run away from someone who
could
be trying to attack you as a narcissist or a cult leader?
They hate questions, number one. And then number two, they never answer the question. They only attack you. And then number three, maybe before you even get to the question, they are adamant that only their view is the right view and they have all the answers. That's a huge, those are 3 big red flags for me if I meet somebody like that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, Peter, for being with us today. It's always such a pleasure. I'd like to get you set up for next month as well.
Great. Yeah.
You're creating a lot of questions. And that's great. I love that on my show. Thank you guys so much for watching Donna's Edge television talk show. And you can find us on all social media sites. Abundance Television, you can follow us that way. You can also find us the podcast on thenewscasters.com. And don't forget the radio station, Classic Country, the biggest right here in South Carolina. Again, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.